see people watching, perfect hourglass timing. Good things come to those who wait. Silhouette looking cinematic. Yeah, I bet that you wish you had this. Bless me, I'm sicker than your average. So contagious.
Hi, I'm so glad that you've been able to join me on today's live. It's part of my 7-day personal Facebook Live challenge. A mouthful every time I say it, but I'm so glad that you're able to join us. If you're watching on the replay, if you get a chance, and even if you are live right now, I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong, but the fingers. But if you could like my Facebook Align by Design coaching so that we can grow organically. So enough of that shameless self-promotion. Today, I am just thrilled to have our next guest, Elizabeth Colón. I'm not even going to do the intro. I'm going to have her do it because she does it best. So let's bring on Elizabeth so that we could get this party started. I'm so glad that you were able to make it. Thank you.
Oh my
So
God.
for those who are joining us or watching us on replay, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Yes. Well, first of all, Lilybeth, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you, even if it's on camera. You're an amazing person. I so miss you. I miss you.
I miss you
Uh,
too.
and thank you for having me. So my name is Elizabeth Colón, and I am the founder of a company called Metaphrasis Language and Culture Solutions. It's based in Chicago, but we do work nationally. Our clients are all over the country. And why wouldn't it be? It's language, right? We offer different types of services like interpreting and translations, uh, voiceovers and talent. So the way the world is, we are a melting pot. And of course, language is all over the world. And that's why we have such an expansive and clientele where we're around the country. I've been in business for 13 years, started back in 2007. I started from home, which a lot of solo entrepreneurs do. It's the best way of doing it when you want to become an entrepreneur. And over time, as we continue to grow, I was able to add a staff, and then we opened our first central office in Chicago in the West Town area. And here we are. I mean, we keep growing and offering new services and pivoting. And it's been an amazing journey with the staff and the interpreters and the clients that we serve.
So when you first got this started, your story, even just from inception, is really interesting. Share with us what that is. I know what it is, and I always get a thrill every time I hear it. So, and I think that the audience will too, the roots of how your Metaphrosis company got started.
Yes. There's two purposes behind it, and I'm going to start with the smaller version first. But I did grow up with parents who didn't speak any English and two sisters who are deaf. So at an early age, I started to experience what it meant to be an interpreter, right? But I was actually a child interpreter in a place of taking on the role of an adult and trying to kind of figure it all out. However, that really wasn't the nudge that got me into opening my own business. I was working for an organization that I took on very early when it was basically failing, if you want to say, call it that way. They had one employee and a very low budget. And because I was interested in learning about interpreting, someone actually had recommended that I should do consulting. And at the time, I don't think either of us knew that it was actually called interpreting. But she said, "Hey, why don't you do some Spanish consulting?" I'm like, "Well, what is that?" And I started looking and investigating and eventually found a job opportunity that I interviewed for, which was in the language service industry. And I said, wow, I'm going to do this for 2 years and I'm going to learn what I need to learn and then I'm going to move on. However, the universe didn't want that for me at the time. I actually ended up staying for about 7 years. And when I walked into the organization, there was basically just one employee and a budget of about $200,000. And I took it and put on my entrepreneur hat, which I didn't know at the time that that's what I was actually creating, and grew the company into a multi-million dollar organization. Yeah, it was amazing. We went from one employee to having 8 employees. We went from a one I don't even know if it was 100 square foot office, but we ended up in a 4,000 square foot office. And I just started creating programs that were relevant to our clients and just touching on language access. In my 7th year, I realized that technology was starting to just happen in our industry. And I, proposed an idea. And at the time, my then boss didn't say, she didn't say yes and she didn't say no. And so I just left it at that. But one day while I was at my desk, an email came through and it was asking me to review and comment on a draft job description. And when I opened it, I actually kind of got excited because it was a senior director position. It was all the work that I was doing. And I was like, wow, this is for me. This is my job. And I said to like my job, like I could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that when the time came, I said, I'm going to apply for this position. I mean, who better than to do this after 7 years? I knew the culture. Everyone got along with me. I was building, a multi-million-dollar company and we were still continuing to grow. So one morning I woke up and decided to dress up in my best suit at the time and put on my makeup. And I actually dressed up as if I was actually going to an interview for a job. And I felt that that gave me the confidence to ask for the position. So I walked into my office and I remember putting down my brief bag and sitting up really tall and taking a deep breath and smiling and picking up the phone and asking for an interview. And the conversation went somewhat like this. It's been a long time, but I kind of remember most of it. And I basically, told my boss at the time that I wanted to interview for the position. And I gave her all the reasons why, right? The same thing I just shared, knowing the culture, being there 7 years, building the company, and so forth. And the call went complete silence. And then out of nowhere, she responded and said, Elizabeth, you can apply for the job, you can interview, but you're not going to get the job because you are unskilled. And at that moment, I was like, wow, I didn't react. And this is the part that, when it's sometimes a bad dream, you don't remember everything. I don't remember what I said. I probably just hung up. But I just really remembered feeling very hurt, because for me, I had invested a lot of time and energy in creating something that I was truly passionate about. I traveled about 2 hours one way. So that was 4 hours a day on public transportation to get to this job that I truly loved. And then here I was after 7 years, after receiving all these raves, wonderful reviews about how great I was and what I was doing, that I was no longer fit or deemed to take on a new position, which basically was my own. So I remember my smile going away. I remember kind of like drooping down, when you lose your confidence. And I went home that night and just cried about it because I was very hurt about the outcome of the response that I received. And after a while, you have to stop crying and kind of think about what's your next move. And me being the stubborn person that I am, because I am a very stubborn person.
We're going to call it tenacious. In this particular circumstance, we're going to say you were very tenacious, not necessarily stubborn.
Tenacious. I was, yes, tenacious. Okay, I'm good with that one. But I said to myself, this is not going to be the ending of my story. I'm going to end it the way I want, right? This is my story to end. And I just walked in, and I'm going to admit there was anger and resentment there, right? Because sometimes when we make drastic decisions, there's a cost that comes with it. And it was a big cost for me. But I just walked in and handed in my resignation. And I was done, right? And it felt good for about 5 minutes until I sat down.
And you figured, okay, now what am I going to do, right?
I had no plan. I had like, okay, what am I doing now? And you're right, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a job. I was a mother, with a mortgage just like everyone else and a car payment. And I went to my bank account and I realized I only had $500. I was like, what am I going to do with this? So I just took the $500 and researched, basically how to open your own company. And the license was only $250. I was like, wow, that leaves me with $250 more, right?
Exactly. Forget about how I'm going to pay the rent or put food on the table. It's like I'm starting my own business and I still have $250.
Right? Rice and beans for about a month. And I did.
Exactly.
I started
exactly. Right. It worked.
Yes. So I started my business and I worked from home like many, many entrepreneurs. And I set up a desk and I set up a computer. And you know, Lilyvette, I never shared this with you because someone actually about a year or two actually kind of broke down how the universe actually answered my calling. And that was that within those 2 weeks of opening my business, right, I was transitioning out and I'm a person of integrity and I was leaving everything in order and leaving files and documents. We had just onboarded a new client and he comes in and I'm telling him that I was leaving in a week and that everything was going to be fine and not to worry about anything. And he just turned around and looked at me and he said, Elizabeth, I didn't come here for the organization. I came here for you. So if you leave, I leave, right?
Wow. What a testimony.
Isn't it? That was just one of three things. And I was like, okay, so I didn't take him. He said he was coming with me. So I had my first client without realizing I had my first client, first of all. And then as I'm departing and saying goodbye to some of the interpreters that were working for me at that time, 12 of them came up to me and said, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, we want to be part of it. And they all gave me their business cards. And now I have 12 interpreters. And then
You just gave
lastly,
me chills. You're right. I hadn't heard this part of it, but this is amazing.
and yes, but I didn't realize this. Literally someone brought this to my attention 2 years ago. And the third part was I trusted someone who gave us the scheduling portal. It was a portal that we were using to make our jobs easier. And I shared with him I was leaving, and he asked me what I was planning on doing. He was actually the only one that I actually told what I was doing too. And when I told him, he said, I'm going to give you our portal because I want you to succeed. Now, Lilyvette, we were paying $600 a month back then for this system to help our scheduling process. And here I go. I have interpreters. I have my first client. And now I have a scheduling portal. So at home, and then I got my website created. So at home, it was a desk with a computer and a phone. And it was funny because, when you create a website, you can make your company look like a $20 million company. You can make it look like a cheesy company. Well, mine was pretty impressive and no one knew that I didn't have staff. And so
You took to heart the fake it till you make it approach.
I did. And I did a great job too, because I would answer the phone in one tone by saying, good morning, Metaphrasis language coaches, Metaphrasis language and culture solutions. How can I help you? They would want to talk to me and I would screen the call. Who is it? What is this regarding? Please hold. I would put the phone on hold for a few seconds, come back, pick it up and say, Elizabeth speaking, like in a completely different way.
Hey, listen, we do what we have to do. And I bet you most of them didn't even realize it's the same person I just spoke to, right?
Yes.
It happens that way.
No one knew, Lilyvette. They thought I was this big company. And that's how I organically grew my company to where within a year I was able to add staff. And by year 3, I was able to actually purchase my office space and continue to grow. So I love that because I was very tenacious but creative, thinking who's going to want to do business with a solo entrepreneur, right? And, but it worked. My interpreters were open to getting paid late, but I don't, the universe answered that. I never lapsed in paying anybody. I actually even went back to my new clients per se and asked them, I'm a startup. Would you be willing to pay me within 2 weeks? And they did. And I was able to build my capital to the point where I never even got a loan. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
So, your example, everything that you've shared up until this point are a couple of things. You identified a problem. You provided a solution for that problem, which was basically the ability for people to be able to be heard through communication, through language. When the situation didn't go how you had planned for your long-term goal or even just immediate goal, you didn't let that situation identify you, if you will. You put the fear on the back burner because I'm sure as soon as you saw that $500 in your checking account, a lot of other people would have said, no, I need to get a check. I need to get something, a salary that's going to bring in regular steady income. You put that fear on the side because you knew the value of what you're bringing. And then just like how you just finished stating, through the relationships that you had developed up until that point, you got a client, you got interpreters, and I see now where the voiceover came from, right? If you're a solopreneur watching this live or on replay, maybe learn a couple of different ways of answering the phone so that people
Yes.
don't know that it's you. So let's
Right.
fast forward a little bit, because I know that those same skills allowed you to be able to build a very large business, if you will.
Mhm.
Can you share how organically and some of the pitfalls that happen just because of the market? And I think you hit on it a little bit about the technology part.
Absolutely. Basically, we grew very quickly, and I'm gonna, if you don't build relationships with your clients or your customers, you don't really have a business. I don't. It doesn't matter if you have technology in place, you have 20 employees. People want to do business with people they trust, right? But they also want to do business with people who have a high level, or not people, but a business with a high level of integrity and standards, right? Because I
Mhm.
believe that when you bring on any client, you're representing them, and they want to know that you're going to do right by them. And we were really good at always listening and continue to listen to our clients all the time. What are your needs? What are your issues? We admit our faults when we make a mistakes. If it means that we write it off, we write it off, because it honestly was our mistake. And whenever they ask us for, Elizabeth, you need to do this. So, I'll use example for the scheduling portal that we have. Our clients were always asking us for reports, right? And they were like, well, why don't you have a more sophisticated, platform? And it took us 2 years, but we went searching for a platform that really would address the needs and the pain points of our clients, that would make their job easier and that would make our job easier. And we have this portal in place for about 6 years. And it's fascinating because the vendor that we chose actually listens to us as well. When we go back and say our clients need XYZ, they're open to creating that in the portal if it's feasible, right? So the fact that we're able to get to the nugget of what our clients need has helped us grow.
Excellent,
Right?
excellent. So, and I also know that when you and I first met through a larger 1 year mastermind coaching program, your business underwent a significant blow.
Yes.
And I have to honestly say that the amount of, I want to say, elegance and grace that you portrayed whatever turmoil was happening internally, you wouldn't even know it. But can you share where you were able to kind of dig deep inside of you, and again, not let that identify or say to you, well, that's it, I'm just going to throw in the towel, or explain a little bit about the process that you went through, because I think that that will be really helpful for those who are watching live or might be seeing this on the
Mhm.
replay.
Well, Lilyvette, that's nothing when I went through this pandemic. This pandemic was the bigger one for me.
Well, yeah,
So,
and we're going to get to that too, right? Because
yes,
that's exactly what we're going through, right? Is that we go
right.
through these little obstacles, and we can let those experiences identify us, or we're going to push through. So definitely
Right.
incorporate both of those, because that was going to be my next question anyway. So
Pandemic.
explain away.
Okay. So 2017, they always say don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you are an entrepreneur or business owner, if you're familiar with the SWOT analysis, it's something that I highly recommend that you do it at least once a year and look where all your threats and opportunities are, but maybe more your threats. And we knew that putting our basket in one eggs, meaning having too much of a one client bringing in the most of the revenue, is a threat, because if they go, your business can close, or you lose a big chunk in your revenue. Well, lo and behold, that is what happened to us. And we had a client that I had a very, very long standing relationship with them. I was amazingly, like, truly loyal to them. I helped them create program after program without like even charging a consulting fee, because I really personally thought that they would never leave me. But I understand that over time, organizations and businesses have to adjust their budgets to reflect the growth within their organization. And we were let go. We thought we were going in to renew our contract, and they told us, nope, we are going to eliminate our vendors and we're going to go a different route. And then overnight, we lost a, more than half of our revenue.
That's significant.
Initially, it is significant.
It's a
And
blow.
initially, I took it personal. I
Mm.
thought, I said, what did I do wrong, right? What did I do wrong to cause this? And the truth was, I never did anything wrong. It was a business transaction. That's the way I looked at it at the end of the day. It was a business transaction. And what can I learn from this to not allow for this to happen to me again? Basically, right? Not to keep all my eggs in one basket. So
Right.
it's what,
That's a huge lesson. So
yes.
I'm sure that, in that particular situation, it was a specific company, but now you were going to make reference of the last 8 months that just has caused chaos universally, not just, we can't say just one industry or you personally. I mean, this is straight across the board. So how has these last 8 months
Mhm.
caused you to reflect and assess where your industry or your company is moving?
Yeah. Our industry is important and it's vital. And I didn't really go in depth about exactly how and who we service, but we provide a voice, what I consider the voices, people who can't speak English, who needs the help of an interpreter to speak on their behalf. And it's powerful because the pandemic left a lot of people alone, and add language barriers to that. Imagine how they felt. So when March came around, we were really busy and we had a lot of projects happening. But when in Illinois, our governor announced shelter in place, which happened November 16th, within an hour or two, all of our clients canceled every single appointment that we had. Yes, because we were not allowed to go into the hospitals or any of the buildings because we were now shelter in place for 2 weeks. So everyone started to pivot, right? Like, I don't even know if they pivoted right away. I think everyone was just trying to figure it out. And we were in the same position. So that happened. It started canceling. And then we didn't have any work. By day 4, business days, I had nothing. And I had to then decide what was going to be my next move. And so my first step was letting go of my entire staff and running the business myself. The second one was getting over the fear of what was going to happen next, because I got scared. I didn't know if my business was going to exist. And I just had to take a step back. I had to take a deep breath. I had to sit still and say, Elizabeth, what are your opportunities here? Instead of fearing what was happening, what were my opportunities? And I got into action mode after I started to ask myself that question. I felt that if I didn't become resilient, then I was not going to have a business. And my resiliency kicked in. And I just said, this is what I said to myself, Elizabeth, you don't have a staff. You didn't have one 13 years ago. You worked by yourself. You'll do it again. I started working the business by myself, right? I did not ask my clients for business. Instead, I called them and asked them, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? And that brought comfort to them because they were at the front line of this pandemic, and they felt appreciative somebody was checking in with them. And that's what I did. And then thirdly, what I ended up doing is like, I'm going to revamp my whole company. So I started going through my policies, going through my procedures, asking myself what I want to do different, who would I want on my team. So I want to say rebirth my company by starting completely over.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, rebirth. That's a good word.
Yes.
A good
And let
way
me add, we're
to
up
do that.
to the 7 people we let go. We have now 3 back.
Well, that's significant. That's, almost half, considering that, again, you started from zero all over
Yes.
again and through no fault of your own, right? Because it wasn't like somebody decided they weren't going to use your services. It's just in that particular situation, you couldn't go and service them. So
Right.
how have you switched in that representation? I know that technology, some companies have used Zoom or something along the lines, but you're talking about communication where sometimes even facial expression in communication, depending on the language, plays a role.
Yes. We're not back where we used to be, and I'm not sure that we will this year. Our numbers in Illinois are very high, and I would not be surprised if in the next couple of weeks we go back into shelter in place. But in the meantime, we had to pivot. We had to pivot to technology, and we had to learn ourselves how to incorporate interpreters into Zoom because our clients began asking us for interpreters, but they wanted to use their own platform. They wanted to use Zoom. So
Mm,
it was a learning process for all of us, but we learned rather quickly. We created a cheat sheet and we talked to our clients and say this is the way it has to be, for it to work. And it's working. It's working. And it's going to remain that way. We do have our interpreters going back into the healthcare space, but it's not like it used to be.
mhm,
And we have a huge amount of interpreters who refuse to actually walk into that space right now for their
mm.
own concern, for their own health safety and for their loved ones, which we understand. So we have only a chunk of interpreters that are willing to go on site right now.
Mhm, mhm. So let's switch gears a little bit because I know that you are a huge advocate about giving back, community involvement. You've actually been named National Association of Women Business Owners, NAWBO, Chicago president.
Yes, 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 yes. So I am the first Latina in the 43-year history of taking on this presidency. And it's about giving back to women. When I started my journey as a business owner, I didn't have any support, nor did I have mentors. And for me, the road was hard. And over time, I learned so much that I want to be able to share that with other business owners that, there's certain things that you don't have to do alone or that we can, that resources are there available to you. So my goal for the association really is to help do that, but also bring women of all gender, all color into an organization where we want to provide a sisterhood for them and support during these difficult times. One of the things that we've seen in the last couple of months, well, since COVID hit, is our membership growing. Because let me tell you, people are frustrated. People are losing it. They're overwhelmed and they need support and they need to be able to tap into other women business owners that understand them. And we are there to do that for them. And that's one of my ways of giving back. And I love it. And I'm very passionate about that right now.
Well, and you brought up a very interesting point that stress and tensions are very high right now. And I want to touch upon how you bring some of that relief through Boricua Talks. I hope you didn't think I was going to like, I just think that that show that you do with your friend at times is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But I would imagine that you use that also to bring about awareness, and it's also a de-stressor for you.
It is. It is. Maricel, my co-host, we met a couple years ago, and no matter what conversation we had, we were always laughing about the smallest things. And she actually challenged me to do a Boricua Talks. And if you know anything about me, I was very timid about being in front of a camera. And I was like, okay, let's do it. But our purpose is, bringing a show about nothing because it's really about nothing because we just start talking about anything out there and a little bit about everything, but with laughter. And I have to say, it's more her than me. She brings out the humor in me, but she is the comedian. She is the one that makes everything so much fun. And it is about taking little small things and finding the laughter in it so that we can have a good day. And we do it every week. And right now we're in hiatus because we're trying to revamp it. But it's fun, and I laugh so much. And sometimes before we even start, we're laughing. I'm like, oh my God, Amadi said we have to stop because we have to talk about this on the show. Because it doesn't sound the same. It's not as funny when you already talked about it.
Exactly, or you have to be in on the inside joke. So,
Yes.
in closing, my last question to you. I mean, we could just keep talking for so much because you're just such a fascinating woman and how you approach problem solving, and you just can't keep a good woman down. You are a true example of that, as have been the other women that I've been showcasing throughout the week. But my last question to you is, what would you say to your future self?
What would I say to my future self? I would tell my future self that no matter what, you are a confident, strong, and resilient woman, and that there is no one or anything that can knock you down, and to just trust yourself and believe in what you have to offer this to the universe.
And you're perfect. So if anyone is looking for your type of services, how can they reach you?
Well, they can reach out to our website. It's www.metaphrasis.lcs.com, but I'll actually throw out my number, 312-823-6290.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. It just means the world to me, Elizabeth, that you've been able to share this time with me, because I know that you always have something cooking. You always have something going on. So I just so appreciate it. I know that those who are watching live or watching the replay are really going to come away with some fantastic nuggets. And so for those of you who are watching live or on the replay, if you get a chance, go to Align by Design Coaching and like it so that we can grow organically. Before we go, I would be remiss if I didn't give our producer, Tracy Allen with Digital Marketing Supply, a shout out, because she always does such a fantastic job. So thank you, Tracy, with Digital Marketing Supply, for being behind the scenes and making sure that everything is running smoothly. And yeah, she does a fantastic job. So, we're going to have to pick this conversation up at a future date and do a follow-up. And so I hope that when I send out that invitation, you'll be just as gracious and come back and join us.
For you, anything, Lilyvette.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. And on that note, I'm Lilyvette Rodriguez with Align by Design. Until the next time.
Shining, shining like a diamond. I see people watching. Perfect, hourglass timing. Good things come to those who wait. Silhouette looking cinematic.